Hello again. It has been an even longer time, and one cataclysm later, things look a little bit different. Today I'm going to go over the basics of the new Age of Sigmar Soulbound system and premium module. But first, I want to give a brief introduction on the Foundry ecosystem for those who may be new to the platform. This is the Foundry main menu, where you can manage the main components of your Foundry experience. Those main components come in three forms: worlds, modules, and systems. A system provides the definition of your game data, as well as character sheets and features. A system is required to run your game. The Age of Sigmar Soulbound system is free for anyone with a Foundry license to use. Let's install that now. Modules are optional add-ons, and they can basically do anything, ranging from providing pre-prepared content to changing how Foundry VTT operates. There are over 1,000 free community-created modules, as well as dozens of premium modules. Some of you may be familiar with my Warhammer Fantasy modules, and the Age of Sigmar Soulbound core module is no different. It is this core module that you may or may not have purchased from the Cubicle 7 web store. It provides all the content from the rulebook, but I'd like to emphasize that it is not necessary to play the game. All that's needed is the free system that we installed earlier. That being said, I greatly appreciate anyone who purchases these modules, as they support me and thus fund future development for these modules. I'm going to hold off on installing this core module because I want to highlight the differences between just the free system and what the module changes. And finally, worlds can be thought of as your game groups. This is where you plan, prepare, and run your games. When creating a world, you assign it what system to use, and once we're in the world, we can tell it what modules to load as well. To start out, we can simply create a new world. We can give it a title and a description which players will see when they log in, as well as schedule when the next game is, if necessary. But for now, let's jump in and see what the Age of Sigmar Soulbound system is all about. We can see we've loaded into our empty world. There's no characters, items, notes, anything. This is where we can begin creating and planning our game sessions. However, here's where I'll also illustrate the advantage of the premium module. I can say from much of my own experience that this process is quite tedious. There's no way to avoid that. There's dozens of actors and hundreds of items to be created. So, let's go back to the main menu and install the core module. While I'm here, I'm also going to install the free Dice So Nice module, which rolls 3D dice on the screen. As mentioned before, you can activate the core module from within the world. So let's begin. You can manage your active modules in the Settings tab. The core module should be around the top. Once activated, you'll see a dialog pop up. Let's take a moment and discuss what this does. We've activated the module, but the world is still as empty as it previously was. However, we have a few Compendium packs now. What are these? Well, when systems and modules provide these packs, their content does not belong to the world. They can't be properly used in your game unless they are brought into the world or imported, like so. Additionally, Compendium packs don't offer organization, while you can organize content into folders in your world. So, this dialog is asking us whether we want to import the core rulebook content from the Compendium into our world. We will answer with a resounding yes. I want to take some time in discussing some important caveats. As much as I recommend importing this content, be mindful of the amount of documents in your world. The more you have, the more data each player needs to download, which could cause issues when they try to join. Compendium packs do not suffer from this. That's the point of them, storing data that isn't necessarily needed at this time. Additionally, there will occasionally be updates to the core module content, generally small corrections to text or stats. When you update the module in the main menu, it updates the Compendium content. It does not affect your world data. To help with this, I've included a way for your world content to receive these updates, but it's not without its own warnings. Navigate to the Settings configuration, which is separated into Core, Module, and System settings. We want to look at Module settings. Find the core module, open the module setup dialog once again, and now we find an Update button. This will open another menu asking us to confirm this process, clearly stating that it will overwrite the content imported previously. So if you've made changes to them yourself, those changes will be overwritten. Now let's go back and see how our world is doing after the import process. Most clearly we can see that the map of the Great Parch has been added. This is a scene, which you can place tokens, measure movement, draw, do combat, and place notes on. This last point is something we'll quickly focus on. At the bottom of the left side, there's a list of tools. You'll see a dovetail flag that will bring you to the notes layer. Once active, you can see that I've populated the map with several journal entries according to their location. If you'd like these notes to always be displayed no matter what layer you're on, click on the purple pin icon at the top. Note that this is a personal setting having no effect on other users, who must toggle it on themselves if they wish. So these journal notes are on the map, but their main location is actually in the Journal Sidebar tab. Here we can find the core rulebook in its entirety, divided into folders per chapter. Everything from rules to lore, all of them featuring hyperlinks between each other for easy navigation. If you want to create these links yourself, simply edit the journal and drag another document inside. If you want to place a journal on the map, like I've done, simply drag the journal onto the map. Now let's get into some system-specific features, such as actors, which represent the characters, NPCs, and enemies in your game. The bestiary is provided here from the core module, but let's first create a new character to learn the ropes. This new character gives us a starting point with nothing really filled out. In the main tab, it shows the basic stats of the character, as well as a list of talents. The stats consist of the attributes and skills of the character, where you can fill in training and focus for each skill. The P column shows the total pool value when using this skill, which we'll get into shortly. The Talents tab shows the talents, again, as well as spells and miracles. These are all represented within Foundry as items. Items basically exist to be owned by actors. So it's anything from spells to talents to physical items such as weapons and equipment. To give an item to an actor, simply drag and drop it onto the character sheet. In fact, let's take a look at an archetype journal entry to outfit our character. Opening the Night Quester, we can see many different hyperlinks to journal entries or items. Dragging from here is the same as dragging from the sidebar. I can see we get Heroic Challenge as a core talent, as well as 3 listed talents here, and the equipment here, some of which are detailed in the equipment chapter and thus represented as draggable items. Otherwise, you can fill them in manually. If there's a choice of weapons, like so, you can go to the Weapons and Armor journal entry to easily browse what's available. After setting our attributes and spending some XP and skills, we only need to select an image for our character. The module comes with a multitude of art and tokens for you to use, so we'll choose the same one from the archetype journal entry. Once we're done with this, we can see in our Gear tab the specific items we've received, and you can edit them as well. For instance, the archetype specified Sigmarite warplate and Quester warblade, So let's rename these items to match that. This shows off how to edit items, and note that changes to an item owned by an actor does not at all affect the items stored in the world. They are not connected at all. Of course, to use these items, we must equip them first. When you equip items, they will show up in the Combat tab if they have a combat purpose. We'll get into this section in a moment, but first let's go back to the main tab and discuss rolling. We can make basic skill and attribute rolls here simply by clicking on the skill name, which brings up the roll dialog. Here we can make changes to the roll if circumstance allows, such as adding bonus dice. Always be mindful of your effects list. We'll go into more detail about effects soon, but know that you should click these if they pertain to the test you're making. Since we have an effect that specifies diplomacy, we can click this and see changes to the dialogue. In this case, difficulty was decreased. Once we've rolled, we can see the details of the result. It also says we have some focus that we can spend, so let's do that. You can simply click on the dice you wish to spend it on. When you're satisfied, right-click Apply Focus, or otherwise clear focus to reset it. Notice the other options as well. We can re-roll the test like so. That brings up a new menu where we can select the dice that we want to re-roll, which we should select the dice that failed. So getting into more details here, if we look at the Combat tab, we can see more about the combat status of our character, such as health, speed, combat items, and so on. There's a lot to interact with here, so let's focus on weapons. Similarly to skills, we can simply click on the name of the weapon to bring up the roll dialog. This time it looks a little bit different with some more things to tinker with, such as opponent defense and armor. If you want these to automatically be set, make sure to target the enemy before you attack. For players, you can target with a double right click. Additionally, some traits are automated, some aren't. If you ever need to remind yourself what they do, you can simply click on them in the Combat tab to show a description. Note that this is only available if you have the core module. So looking at the test result, we can see that we've done some damage here. Luckily, there's no need to deal with that manually. Simply select the tokens that should receive the damage, right-click the chat card, and select from the Apply Damage options. Let's discuss spells now, which have specific rolling features. I can drag this spell to my actor, then use it from the Combat tab. Rolling it, I can see that I've failed. Thus, it shows the price of failure button. If you have imported the core module, clicking this button will roll on the table with the appropriate amount of dice. If you don't have the core module, simply create a table with the name exactly as shown, and it should work. Instead of rolling something unpleasant, let's try to get this test to succeed. Doing so, we can see a few different buttons here. One to roll a test and another to apply an effect. These are some convenience features to quickly resolve spell results. Select a token on the map and click on the test to invoke a roll. Depending on the result, we can also click on the Apply Effect button to apply it. Lastly, what are effects anyway? If we look at our effects tab in the sheet, we can see that we have a few. The conditions are listed on the top. Others are listed in the 3 different sections. If we open the Combat Ready effect, which we received from the Combat Ready talent, it shows that we add 2 to our data.combat.initiative.bonus. Now, there's a lot of complexity here, but we can see if we go to our Combat tab that we have a 2 in our bonus section for initiative. Creating effects might seem a bit daunting, but I've created a small framework for you to do so easily. When you create a new effect, this quick effect menu will pop up, with a selection of properties for you to choose. These are by no means the only possible changes that can be made, but these would be the most generally used. For example, we can quickly add 1 to our natural awareness like so. Remember to click the Create button and not the Skip button, otherwise your selection won't be added to the effect. Speaking of initiative in combat, how do we use them? How do we create encounters? Well, that's what the combat tracker is for. Select all the tokens that are involved in the combat, right-click and click the cross swords to enter them into the combat tracker. Now we can roll for initiative, which will order them by their initiative stat. If you wish to have one of the alternate initiative methods, you can find them in the system settings. Now you might be wondering, what about zones? Well, zones don't really have a specific implementation in Foundry, but you can easily mark where the zones are with the drawing tools on each scene. So if you have a map here, you can activate the drawing tools and draw your zones. Also, you can label them, keep it hidden if you wish. You can have secrets or not. You can easily label it however you wish. Another great feature is the party sheet. This is where the GM can organize the party and the events in the world relating to their party, such as goals and rumors, which you can then upgrade or downgrade from rumor to fear or threat according to what happens in the story. Additionally, you can define the party's members by simply dragging and dropping any actor that is owned by a player into the sheet. If it is not owned by a player, then you can decide whether they are an ally or an enemy. You can just click on them to open the sheet. Party sheets also interact with the Soulfire and Doom counter. The counter can be independent, not relating to any party. However, you can link it with a party. Once linked, it will match whatever the Soulfire and Doom counter is on the party sheet. Click on the link to open the party sheet again, or you can right-click it to remove the link. Now, I absolutely have not scratched the surface at all of Foundry's features in this video. It is a complex piece of software that everyone should take their own time to learn and experience. However, I hope this gives you a head start specifically with the Soulbound system if you're new. Otherwise, I hope this gave you an idea of the changes in the new system version and what's in the core module. I want to thank everyone in the community once again. It's been an awesome experience working on these Warhammer systems, and I can't wait to bring more content to everyone, as well as create, hopefully, more videos on all these systems. Happy gaming, everyone, and take care.